New York City. The dream I had always pictured in my head. The bustling streets, the towering skyscrapers, and the endless possibilities. I never imagined I would be here, standing at the doorstep of a prestigious company, ready to begin my career. But more than that, I never imagined meeting her. I had only been in the city for a few weeks, still trying to adjust to the chaos of the place when I first saw her. She was standing near the entrance of the office, laughing with a colleague, her blonde hair catching the light as she tossed it over her shoulder. Everything about her radiated confidence, from the way she stood to the way she smiled. But it was her eyes, those deep brown eyes, that got me. They were warm, inviting, yet distant, like they held a secret that only she knew. It wasn't long before we met. "Hi, you must be Adam," she said, her voice smooth like honey. "Welcome to the team." Her handshake was firm. And there was something in the way she looked at me, like she could already tell who I was, like she already knew me. A feeling stirred in me, something that wasn't quite just attraction. It felt like ... fate. "Thanks. It's great to be here," I replied, my words coming out a little shakier than I intended. I cursed myself for sounding so nervous. She laughed, the sound light and carefree. "Don't worry, you'll fit in just fine." Her smile was intoxicating, and I found myself caught in it, just standing there like an idiot. Right. But it wasn't just her smile that had me hooked. It was everything about her. Right? The way she spoke, the way she carried herself, the confidence that seemed so effortless. I had never been drawn to someone so quickly, so powerfully, and I could tell she felt it to her lingering glances, the way her body seemed to lean in when she spoke to me. I was already falling for her, and it hadn't even been a full hour since we met. That night, we ended up having dinner together after work. It was supposed to be casual, a getting to know you kind of thing, but when we sat down at the small cafe near the office, everything felt different. The air between us crackled with something more than friendship. I couldn't stop staring at her, at how perfect she looked under the soft glow of the streetlights that filtered through the window. She was mesmerizing. "You know, I wasn't sure what to expect from New York," I confessed, my voice softer than usual. "But this city, it's like it's where I'm supposed to be." Lily leaned back in her chair, sipping her wine as she watched me. Her smile never faltered, but there was a hint of something in her eyes, a depth I couldn't quite figure out. "Yeah, it's a city of possibilities," she said, her voice low, almost seductive. "But it's also a city of secrets." I frowned, unsure of what she meant by that. "Secrets?" She shrugged, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "Everyone has a story here. Some of them are good, some of them not so much." I didn't know if she was referring to herself, but the way she said it made me want to dig deeper. "You've got a story, don't you?" Lily's eyes locked with mine, and for a moment I saw a flicker of something: vulnerability. Fear, before it was quickly replaced with that same confident smile. "We all have our secrets, Adam. Some of us just know how to keep them." The conversation shifted after that, but I couldn't stop thinking about her words. And for the rest of the night, I felt something shift between us. We were no longer just colleagues. There was something more, something unspoken that neither of us could ignore. By the end of the night, as I walked her back to her apartment, the connection between us was undeniable. The chemistry was electric, the air thick with anticipation. She turned to face me at the door, her gaze lingering for just a second longer than necessary. "I had a great time tonight," she said softly, her breath warm against my cheek. "Me too," I replied, my heart racing. Before I could say anything else, she stepped forward, brushing her lips gently against my cheek. It wasn't a kiss, just a simple, fleeting touch, but it left me breathless, my mind racing. "I'll see you tomorrow, Adam," she said, her voice barely a whisper before she disappeared inside. As I stood there, watching the door close behind her, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Something told me I was about to be drawn into a world I wasn't ready for, but I was already too far in. My heart was already hers, even though I didn't know what kind of game we were about to play. But I didn't care. All I knew was that for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be. Something about Lily didn't sit right with me. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it was there. The more I got to know her, the more I realized she wasn't as open as she seemed. At first, I chalked it up to her busy life, the demands of the company, the city. But as the days went by, I couldn't ignore the little things. the things she tried to hide, like the phone calls. It started with her constantly stepping outside when her phone rang, her voice lowered to a whisper that I couldn't quite make out. The first few times I told myself it was nothing. She probably just didn't want to disturb me. But when it became a regular thing, it started to gnaw at me. Who was that? I asked one evening as she stepped back inside after a long phone call. Oh, just work stuff, she said, brushing it off with a smile. You know how it is. But something in her eyes told me she wasn't being entirely honest. I tried to shake it off, but it lingered. Then there were the nights she'd suddenly have to leave early, a vague excuse about errands or appointments. The explanations were never specific, and they never felt genuine. She'd rush out the door, kiss me on the cheek, and leave me standing there with a feeling of unease settling in my stomach. Plans tonight? I asked one evening as she was getting ready to leave. No, just some stuff I need to take care of, she replied, avoiding my gaze. I couldn't help but feel there was something more to it. I had been trying to ignore it, to trust her, to believe in the relationship we were building. But these little inconsistencies piled up, and with each one, my doubt grew. I needed answers. But I didn't want to push her, not yet. I didn't want to ruin what we had. I wanted to believe her, to trust that she was being honest with me. But the more I thought about it, the harder it became to ignore the nagging voice in my head. Adam, you're overthinking, I told myself, sitting on the edge of my bed one night, my thoughts racing. You're just paranoid. She's busy. That's all. But as the days passed, I found myself becoming more distant. I didn't want to confront her without evidence. But every time she was vague or secretive, it felt like a wall was going up between us. And every time she left, I wondered if she was truly going to the places she said she was. There was a particular night that really pushed me over the edge. I had made plans with some of my colleagues, a casual get-together at a nearby bar. It was meant to be fun, a way to get to know people outside of work. I hadn't mentioned it to Lily Shea, had a busy schedule, and I didn't want her to feel obligated to come. But I texted her before I left, just to check in. Hey, plans tonight, I asked? She texted back a few minutes later. Sorry, I have to cancel. Something came up. I frowned. It wasn't like her to cancel on short notice, especially when we hadn't seen each other much the past few days. Everything okay? I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Yeah, just work stuff. I'll make it up to you soon. I stared at the screen, the message sitting there like a weight. Something didn't add up. I glanced at the clock. It was almost midnight. I knew her schedule well enough by now to know that she wasn't working late at the office. I hadn't heard anything about a big project or a deadline that would explain her absence, and so I did something I hadn't intended to do. I drove to her apartment. The lights were on in her building, and I could see her car parked in the lot. My heart was pounding in my chest as I stood outside her door. I wasn't sure what I was hoping to find, but I knew I needed to know the truth. I stood there for a while, my hand hovering over the doorbell, unsure if I was ready for what might be on the other side. I was about to press it when I saw something that made my stomach drop, a shadow moving through her living room window. It wasn't just her, there was someone else with her. I stepped back, my heart racing as I stood frozen in place. My mind tried to make sense of what I had seen, but nothing made sense. Was it someone from work? A friend? Or was it someone else entirely? I turned and walked back to my car, the pit in my stomach growing deeper. I hadn't seen anything concrete, but I didn't need to. I knew something was wrong. I couldn't keep ignoring it anymore. The truth was becoming clearer with every passing day, and I wasn't sure I was ready to face it. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. My gut was telling me something I didn't want to hear, but I had to listen. Lily wasn't who I thought she was. I should have known. It's something about Lily's behavior had been gnawing at me, but I refused to admit it. The phone calls, the late nights, the way she always seemed to be distracted, like her mind was elsewhere. I kept telling myself I was overthinking things, but deep down, I knew. I had to know the truth. It all started on a random Tuesday. I was at the office, trying to focus on a project I'd been putting off, when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Lily had texted me. Hey, I'm going to be a little late tonight. Something came up at work. See you later. I put my phone down, trying not to let the weight of her words bother me. I didn't want to question her anymore, but the feeling that something was off wouldn't leave me. I couldn't shake the thought that there was something she wasn't telling me. After a few hours, I decided to stop by the office to grab a few documents I'd left behind. I wasn't expecting to see anything unusual, but when I walked past the conference room, I heard voices. I paused. The door was slightly ajar, and I could make out two voices, Lily's and someone else's. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "God, I missed you," Lily's voice said, soft and low, but I could hear the passion behind it. I froze. It wasn't just her voice. It was who she was talking to that had me frozen in place. "Missed you too, baby," Richard Allen's voice followed, cool and confident.
Oh.
My heart stopped. Richard, my CEO, the man I'd been working under for weeks.
How could this be happening?
I took a step closer to the door, my heart pounding. I heard the sound of kissing. My stomach churned, the world spinning around me. This can't be real. I felt my legs give out beneath me, and I gripped the doorframe to keep myself steady. What I thought was happening was happening. "Lily, ... I can't wait much longer," Richard murmured. Lily's soft laughter followed, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just working late. She was with him. All the time she said she was busy or had plans, this was what she was doing. This was the secret she was hiding from me. I backed away from the door, trying not to make a sound, my mind racing. The last few months, everything I thought I knew about hurt was a lie. I needed to leave, to get out of there before they saw me. My hands shook as I hurried down the hallway, my mind in a blur. I didn't even realize where I was going until I found myself outside the building. Standing in the cold, the reality of what I'd just heard settling over me like a suffocating weight. I took out my phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed her number. It rang twice before she answered. "Adam," she said, sounding surprised. "Hey, are you okay?" "I know." There was silence on the other end, and my stomach twisted in knots. "I know everything," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I could hear her sharp intake of breath. "What? ... What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb with me, Lily. I heard you. I heard you with him." There was a long pause, and then her voice, barely audible, came through. "Adam, I didn't want you to find out like this." I felt my chest tighten. My hands balled into fists, the anger rising in me. "No, I'm glad I did, because now I know who you really are." Her voice cracked, and I could hear the regret in it. "Please, let me explain." "Explain?" I laughed bitterly. "There's nothing to explain, Lily. You were sleeping with Richard, my CEO, the man I work for, and you lied to me about everything." I could feel the tears burning in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "I trusted you," I said through gritted teeth. "I actually believed in us." "Adam, please, it's complicated." "Complicated?" My voice was rising now. "How is that even possible? You were lying to me, keeping secrets, and I was too blind to see it." I heard her sigh, and I could tell she was trying to gather her thoughts. "I never meant to hurt you, but you did," I spat. "You hurt me, Lily. You betrayed me. I thought I knew you. But now I don't even know who you are." There was another long silence. I couldn't listen to her anymore. I couldn't hear her excuses, her justifications. My trust was shattered, and there was no going back. "I don't want to talk to you anymore," I said, my voice cold. "We're done." I hung up before she could say anything else, my heart pounding in my chest. I stood there for a long time trying to steady my breath. My world had just come crashing down, and I didn't know where to go from here. I didn't know what I was expecting when I walked into her apartment that night. Part of me thought maybe I was wrong, that I had overreacted, that my mind had created a narrative from a single conversation. But deep down, I knew I wasn't wrong. The truth had already been staring me in the face, and I couldn't pretend anymore. Lily opened the door with that same smile, the one that had always made me feel safe, loved. But now, it felt like a lie. It felt like the calm before a storm. "Hey," she said softly, stepping aside for me to come in. "I wasn't expecting you tonight." I didn't respond right away. Instead, I stepped into the apartment, letting the silence hang between us. She was still standing by the door, her eyes flicking to mine, probably wondering why I hadn't said anything yet. I closed the door behind me with more force than I intended. She flinched. Lily, I said, my voice tight, barely above a whisper. I know. Her face immediately shifted, the smile vanishing. I could see the panic set in, and for a moment I thought maybe she'd lie. Maybe she'd try to cover it up one last time. But I couldn't have that. I needed the truth. The whole truth. I know everything, I repeated, my hands balling into fists at my sides. About you and Richard. Her eyes widened for just a moment, and then the walls went up. She took a step back, folding her arms across her chest. Adam, no. I cut her off. Don't even try to deny it. I heard you too. I heard everything. Her gaze flickered to the floor, and for a brief second, she looked like she was trying to find the words, but there were no words left. Nothing could cover this up now. Adam, please, I don't. I interrupted again, my voice louder this time, the anger rising. Don't give me that. Don't pretend like I'm the one who's been blind. I heard you with him. Been lying to me this whole time. You were with Richard. Behind my back, she winced, and that was the first real crack I saw in her carefully crafted facade. The vulnerability in her eyes hurt almost as much as the betrayal. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said, her voice barely a whisper, but I could hear the guilt in it. It's just ... complicated. Complicated, I repeated, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. What's so complicated about it, Lily? You're sleeping with my CEO, and you think that's complicated? You lied to me for months? You made me think everything was fine, that I was crazy for questioning you? My words caught in my throat. I wanted to scream at her, tell her how much she had hurt me, how much I felt like I'd been betrayed by the one person I thought I could trust. But instead, I felt this hollow emptiness inside me, like all the love I had given her had been drained away. I'm sorry, she said, her voice trembling. I never wanted to hurt you, Adam. I never wanted this to happen. Her apology felt empty, like it was just another part of the game she had been playing. She looked up at me, her eyes pleading, but there was no saving this. Nothing she could say would change what had happened, what I had heard. You never wanted to hurt me? I asked, my voice shaking with disbelief. You've been lying to me, sneaking around behind my back, and you think that doesn't hurt? You think I'm supposed to just forgive you because you're sorry? You've destroyed everything we had? I was going to tell you, she said, taking a step toward me. I just didn't know how to. It was so complicated. Stop, I shouted, taking a step back. I don't care about your excuses anymore, Lily. I trusted you, loved you, and you stabbed me in the back. The tears were threatening to spill, but I held them back. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break down. I didn't want her to think she still had control over me. It's not anymore. I never asked for any of this, I said, my voice quieter now, almost a whisper. But you gave it to me anyway. You broke my trust, and now I can't even look at you without seeing him. Lily stepped closer, her hand reaching for me, but I stepped back again. I couldn't stand to be near her right now. Please, she said, her voice cracking. I never meant to hurt you. I care about you. I do. But it was too late. The words felt hollow, meaningless. All I could see was her with Richard, and it made my stomach turn. Don't. I shook my head, my eyes burning with unshed tears. I don't want to hear it anymore. I've been such a fool, believing in you. You're not the person I thought you were. Lily's face crumpled, but I didn't feel the sting of sympathy. I couldn't. My heart had been shattered, and no amount of apologies could put it back together. I'm leaving, I said, my voice cold, devoid of the warmth it once had when I spoke to her. And don't call me. Don't text me. Out. I turned and walked toward the door, not looking back. Every step I took felt like a weight lifting off my chest, but at the same time, it felt like I was losing a part of myself. The person I was before meeting her, before trusting her. That person didn't exist anymore. The door clicked shut behind me, and I was left standing in the hallway alone, completely alone. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was being crushed, and every inch of my body screamed in pain. The confrontation with Lily had torn me apart, and now I was left with nothing but the hollow ache of betrayal. The apartment door slammed shut behind me, and I stood there in the hallway staring at the empty space in front of me. What was I even supposed to do now? Where was I supposed to go? I didn't know. I hadn't expected it to hurt this much. The anger, sure, I expected that. But the sadness, the deep raw grief that twisted inside MIT was suffocating. All I had ever wanted was to build something real, something lasting. All of that had been nothing but a lie. I barely made it home before I started pacing around my apartment. Back and forth. Back and forth. I couldn't stop moving. I couldn't stop thinking. I couldn't stop imagining them together. Lily, with him. Richard Allen, my boss. The man who had made me believe I was just another cog in the machine. My trust betrayed by both of them. It made my stomach churn. I grabbed my phone off the counter, almost without thinking, and dialed Jordan's number. My fingers were trembling as I hit send, but I didn't care. I needed to talk to someone. Anyone. The silence in my apartment was unbearable. "Oh man," Jordan said, his voice still groggy from sleep. "What's up, Jordan?" I said, my voice hoarse. I don't know what to do." There was a long pause on the other end. "What happened? You sound like you've been through hell." I slammed my hand against the wall in frustration. "Lily, she was with him, Richard, the CEO. She's been lying to me, Jordan. She's been sleeping with him behind my back this whole time." I heard Jordan curse under his breath. "Damn, man, I'm sorry. I don't even know what to say to that." "Yeah," I muttered bitterly, collapsing onto the couch. "I don't know what to say either. I feel like I've lost everything. Everything I believed in. All of it was just ... fake. All those moments, all the things we shared, ... it meant nothing." "Look," Jordan said carefully, "I can't imagine what you're going through, but don't do something stupid. You need to think this through, man." "Think," I snapped, my blood boiling. "What is there to think about? I've been lied to, played like a damn fool, and now I'm supposed to just sit back and do nothing." "Adam," he said, his tone more serious now, "listen to me. You need to take a step back. You're letting this anger control you. I get it, okay? But trust me, man, you can't let it ruin you." I closed my eyes, running my hand through my hair. "I don't know what's left of me, Jordan. I thought I knew who she was, thought I had a future. But now, all I can think about is making them both pay. I need to take control of this. I need to make it right." There was a long pause on the other end, and when Jordan spoke again, his voice was calmer, more measured. "Taking control doesn't mean burning everything to the ground, Adam. It means making the right choices, not just the ones that feel good in the moment. You need to think about what kind of person you want to be after all this." I stared at the empty space in front of me, my mind swirling with rage and confusion. "I don't know who I am anymore. You're still you, man, but you're better than this. We'll figure it out. Just don't let them turn you into something you're not." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him how badly I was hurting, how desperate I was to take action. But his words stuck with me. They cut through the noise in my head like a knife. I couldn't let my anger define me. I couldn't let it control me. I ended the call with a quiet thanks, but I knew that I wasn't done yet. The fire inside me was burning brighter than ever, and now I was determined to do something about it. The next morning I woke up, my mind clearer. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It wasn't just about punishing them for what they had done to me. It was about taking back control of my life, my career, and my future. I spent the day planning. I didn't want to act on impulse. I wanted to be smart about it. Every move I made had to count. But there was something else, something deeper than just getting even. I needed to show them. It's not just Lily and Richard, but everyone else who ever thought I was weak. I wasn't a pawn in their game. I was going to play by my own rules. And that feeling, that spark of determination made me realize something. I wasn't broken. Not yet. I stood up and walked over to my desk, pulling up the company directory on my laptop. My hands shook as I typed in Richard's name. His face came up on the screen, and I stared at it for a moment, my jaw clenched. I wasn't going to let this go. Oh, not anymore. I would make them both pay, not out of hatred, but out of the need to reclaim what was mine. I would make sure they knew what it felt like to lose everything. I didn't know exactly what I was doing at first. All I knew was that I had to make them both pay. Lily, Richard, they thought they could mess with me. Take everything I trusted and get away with it. But they were wrong. I sat in my apartment, staring at the blank wall in front of me. My phone was on the table, but I couldn't bring myself to pick it up. I had talked to Jordan, sure, but deep down, I knew I couldn't just let this go. I needed to take control. I needed to hit them where it would hurt the most. It wasn't just about revenge. No, it was about power. It's about showing them that I wasn't some pawn they could use and discard. Okay, I was in control of my life now, and I wasn't going to let them take that from me. I leaned forward and grabbed my laptop, pulling up the company's internal system. Richard's name was already burned into my mind. The man who had everything I wanted, everything I thought I could trust, was the one who had betrayed me. But now I had the chance to turn the tables. It started small. Searched through the company's employee database. Nothing too suspicious, just a few basic queries. I needed to find any holes in Richard's carefully constructed life. I didn't know what I was looking for yet, but I was sure I'd find something, and I did. It was his travel records. Little things at first: a trip to a city I knew he hadn't mentioned, a hotel stay that didn't match the official reports. I could feel the anger building up inside me with every click. Every new piece of information felt like a piece of the puzzle falling into place. I felt a rush of satisfaction. I was finally taking control. I wasn't just gathering information for the sake of it. I was building my case. The more I dug, the more I found. There were discrepancies in his business expenses, more unexplained trips, and a trail that led directly to Lily. They had been sneaking around behind my back for months. How had I been so blind? The urge to confront him, to walk into his office and expose everything, was overwhelming.
No.
But I knew that would be too obvious. I needed to be smarter than that. I couldn't just ruin him. I had to destroy him. I would, piece by piece. I spent the next few days gathering more information, keeping my cool. I didn't let anyone see what I was doing, even Jordan. I didn't trust anyone with this. It was my war now, and I was going to win it on my terms. On the 4th day of my investigation, I found something that made my blood run cold. A direct email exchange between Richard and Lily. It was subtle, but it was there. The same flirtations, the same hidden words that had once been between us. They'd been planning this all along, and I had been too blinded by my own trust to see it. My hands shook as I read through the messages. I should have felt anger. I should have been furious. But instead, I just felt empty, hollow, like I had been gutted from the inside. How could she do this to me? I muttered under my breath, the words coming out before I could stop them. But I couldn't dwell on that now. I had the evidence I needed. It was time to make my move. I made sure I was alone in the office the next day. I'd been building my case quietly, but I knew this was the moment. I walked past Richard's office, taking a deep breath. He was inside, probably thinking he was untouchable. But he wasn't. He was nothing but a man who had made the wrong enemy. I stopped outside his door, staring at it for a long moment. Part of me wanted to burst in there, to throw everything in his face. But I knew I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I pulled up the files I had gathered, including the damning email. I uploaded it to the system, ensuring that it would be visible to everyone, especially the board members. This wasn't just about Richard's affair with Lily. It was about exposing his corruption, his lies, and his manipulation. It was about taking him down from the inside out. I stood there for a few minutes, staring at the screen, watching the file upload, waiting for the moment when everything would change. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, and my mind raced with thoughts of what would happen next. I didn't know if this would work, if it would be enough, but it was the only thing I could do. Time to let them see the truth, I whispered to myself, clicking the final button to send the file to everyone who mattered. I stepped away from the desk, my heart beating faster. It was done. The moment of reckoning had arrived. I couldn't take back what I had just done. But I didn't want to. I wasn't the same person who had walked into this office all those months ago. I was stronger now, more determined. And this was just the beginning. I was in control now. Nothing was going to stop me. The air in the office felt heavier than usual that morning, like something was about to snap. I was sitting at my desk, trying to focus on work, but my mind kept racing, replaying the plan over and over again. This was it, the first move in my game. Richard's world was about to come crashing down, and I was going to be the one to bring it down. I pulled up Richard's latest email chain on my laptop. It wasn't anything obvious, nothing that would immediately blow his cover, but it was enough. Little inconsistencies, small signs of corruption, hints of things he hadn't planned for me to see. I knew how to use them. The strategy was simple. Make people question him, get them to doubt his judgment, and the rest would fall into place. The cracks in his reputation would widen, and all I had to do was apply a little pressure. I picked up my phone and dialed Claire. She was one of the few people at the company I could trust her at least, someone who wouldn't ask too many questions. "Hey," she said, her voice warm but distracted. "What's up, Claire? I need your help with something," I said, my voice low, careful not to sound too eager. "You know Richard's been pushing for that new project proposal, right?"
Yeah.
she replied. "What about it?" "I've been hearing some murmurs from the board," I said, leaning back in my chair. About some of his decisions lately. Things aren't adding up, and I think we might need to take a closer look at his leadership." There was a brief pause on the line. I could almost hear her thinking. "You think he's making mistakes?" Claire asked, her tone cautious. "Absolutely," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I think there are things he's overlooking, mistakes he's making that are going to cost us big time. We can't let it slide. Not if we want to keep this company on track." I could hear her exhale. "Okay, I get it. I'll keep my ear to the ground. But you know how sensitive this is, right? People are still loyal to him." "Just plant a seed," I said, my confidence growing as the plan took shape. "Let it sit for now. Once people start questioning him, it'll spread. You won't even have to do much." "Got it," Claire said, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. "But be careful, Adam. This could backfire." "I'm not worried," I said, the words coming out with more conviction than I felt. "This is just the beginning." I ended the call and sat back in my chair, letting the silence settle in the room. It felt like the calm before the storm. I'd set my plan in motion, and I wasn't going to stop until Richard was left with nothing. The first seed had been planted. Now, I just had to wait. The next few days were tense, as I kept a close eye on the office dynamics. At first, nothing seemed to change. Richard walked around with that same cocky attitude as if he was invincible. But I could see the cracks starting to form, whispers behind closed doors, doubts creeping into conversations. Little by little, people were starting to question his leadership. I knew it would take time, but it was already happening. And the more I watched it unfold, the more confident I became. I was doing this. I was taking control. But then came the moment that made my blood run cold. I walked into the break room one afternoon, trying to keep my focus on the task at hand, when I overheard a conversation between two of the higher-ups people who had always been loyal to Richard. But now, they were talking about him like he was just another problem to be dealt with. "I don't know," one of them said. "I've been hearing things. People are starting to doubt him. They say he's been making some ... questionable choices. And it's not just the new project. It's bigger than that." The other person laughed nervously. "You think it's time to bring it up to the board?" "Maybe," the first voice said. "But we've got to be careful. If this gets out, it could destroy everything." I stepped back, my heart pounding in my chest. The conversation wasn't just about Richard's leadership anymore. It was about his entire future. I had done this. I had made them question him. And now, all I had to do was sit back and watch the destruction unfold. Later that day, I got an unexpected text from Claire. "You were right. People are talking. It's working." I smiled to myself, feeling a sense of power that I hadn't felt in a long time. This was just the beginning. Richard's reputation was already cracking, and it wouldn't be long before he was completely exposed. I didn't even have to do much. All I had to do was nudge people in the right direction, and they did the rest. As I left work that evening, I felt different. Lighter, almost. The weight I'd been carrying for days, months, really was starting to lift. I was getting closer to my goal. Richard, Lily, they were going to pay. But this wasn't just about them anymore. It was about me. It's about proving that I wasn't going to let anyone walk over me again. I had learned one thing in all of this. Trust is a luxury, and I would never let myself be blind to betrayal again. I would control everything. I could feel it happening, like the tightening of a noose around Richard's necks, lowly, methodically, until there would be no escape. It wasn't immediate, but it was inevitable. I had planted the seeds, and now I just had to watch them grow. It started with small whispers in the office. It was subtle at first, quiet conversations behind closed doors, little questions about Richard's decisions, his leadership, the way he'd been handling certain projects. But I knew it was spreading, and I knew I was the one who had started it. I had arranged for Claire to subtly plant doubt in people's minds, to question Richard's methods, his competence, his character. It wasn't hard. People were already on edge. Richard had made so many mistakes over the past few months that it was easy to push the narrative. Didn't take much to make them question him. All I had to do was push a little, and they did the rest. It wasn't long before the murmurs turned into full-blown gossip, and with gossip came rumors. People started talking about his affair with Lily, how it was affecting his judgment, how it made him unreliable. I didn't have to say anything, just sat back and watched it unfold. It felt good. I was sitting in a meeting one afternoon when I noticed the shift. A few of the senior staff members were talking among themselves, whispering and casting occasional glances at Richard. His face was tense, his posture rigid, as if he could feel the weight of their judgment on him. He was beginning to crack. I could see it. Did you hear? One of the senior managers, Claire's voice, cut through the tension. People are starting to question Richard's judgment on the project. Some of the numbers don't add up. I looked over at Claire, trying to keep my face neutral, but inside, I was smiling. This was it, the beginning of his downfall. He had no idea what was coming. Yeah, I heard, another manager added, casually flipping through the meeting notes. There's also talk about his personal life affecting his professional decisions. I think the board might start asking questions soon. Richard shifted uncomfortably in his seat, and I couldn't help but watch. The mask of confidence he wore was starting to slip. It was only a matter of time before it all came crumbling down. The next few days felt like an eternity. Every conversation I overheard seemed to circle back to Richard's mistakes, his questionable choices. I was more than satisfied. I had done it. Richard's reputation was starting to crack under the pressure, and with it, so was his control. But then came the moment that made me pause. I walked into the break room one morning and overheard a conversation between Jordan and a couple of other colleagues. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then I heard my name. I heard Adam's been digging around, Jordan said, his voice a little too loud for comfort. There are rumors he's got dirt on Richard. People are saying he might be the one to bring him down. I froze, feeling a twinge of discomfort. Do you think he's really going to do it? One of the other colleagues asked. I don't know, Jordan replied. But if he's got something on Richard, it could change everything. I didn't know what to think. Part of me felt a strange sense of pride, knowing that my plan was working. But another part of me felt a gnawing unease in my stomach. I'd become so consumed with this that I was willing to let it take over everything. Richard's downfall was my victory, but was it really worth it? And now, there was no turning back. The next morning, the first real blow came. Richard was called into an emergency meeting with the board. I knew something big was about to go down, and I couldn't stop the rush of adrenaline that coursed through my veins. I had done this. I had brought him to the brink, and I was going to watch him fall. When he returned, his face was pale, his jaw tight with frustration. He stormed into the office, slamming the door behind him. I watched from my desk, my heart pounding as I waited for him to speak. He turned to his assistant, barely looking up. Get me the reports on the new project. Now, he snapped. I could tell he was trying to hold it together, but the cracks were becoming more obvious by the day. His empire was crumbling, and I was the one who had started it. By the end of the week, Richard's situation had become critical. His reputation was in freefall. The board had launched an internal investigation into his finances, and rumors about his affair had begun to circulate even further. People were talking openly now, and it was clear that no one trusted him anymore. I felt a sick satisfaction, but it was tinged with something else. Doubt, guilt. Was I the villain in this story? Was my need for revenge worth the damage it was doing? Every time I saw Richard slumped in his office chair or avoiding eye contact with anyone, a part of me felt like I was losing something I couldn't get back. But then I'd remember what he did, the lies, the betrayal. Suddenly, the satisfaction returned. The anger surged again. I was taking back control. This was justice, even if it didn't feel like it. And that was the moment I realized something else. I wasn't just destroying Richard anymore. I was becoming something I never thought I'd be. Something darker. Something colder. The first cracks in Richard's reign had appeared. The whispers had turned into full-blown accusations, and he was losing everything. I was winning. But I didn't know at what cost. The weight of everything is starting to crush me. I can feel it in the pit of my stomach every time I wake up, every time I sit down to work. The satisfaction I thought I'd feel when Richard's life began to unravel. It's gone. Instead, all that's left is a hollow emptiness that I can't shake. I stand by the window, staring out at the city below, but I don't see any of it. All I can think about is what I've done to get here. At first, it felt so right getting back at Richard, watching him crumble under the pressure I'd built. It was like I was winning, like I had control over something for the first time in my life. But now I feel like I've lost something I can't get back. I try to push those thoughts away. I've worked too hard to back down now, but the doubts keep creeping in. Was it worth it? Is it worth destroying someone else's life just to get back at them for what they did to me? I was sitting at my desk when Claire stopped by. She could always tell when something was off with me. Maybe it was the way I stopped responding to messages, or the way I started pulling away from everyone. "Adam," she said, leaning against the doorway, her voice gentle. "You've been ... distant lately. What's going on?" I didn't want to tell her the truth. How could I? I was too far gone into this mess to admit how much it was eating at me. I forced a smile, but I could feel the weight of it pulling my face down. "I'm fine," I said, my voice flat. "Just busy." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Busy with what?" "You're not even acting like yourself anymore. You don't talk much. You're not really you." I looked at her for a long moment, trying to decide whether to tell her what was going on inside my head. I thought about Richard's downfall, how everything was falling into place, how I had made him pay for everything he did to me. But the closer I got to it, the more it felt wrong. It felt like I was losing something deeper, like I was changing into someone I didn't want to be. "I just need to finish this, Claire," I finally said, trying to sound convincing. "You don't understand how badly I need this to work." "I understand more than you think," she said softly, stepping into the room. "But Adam, you're becoming someone else. I don't think you like it." I looked away from her, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. "You don't get it? I've lost everything. I can't just sit back and let him walk away from this. I need to make him pay for what he did to me." "You don't have to lose yourself in the process," she said, her voice full of concern. "There's a line, Adam, and I think you've crossed it. You're not the same person you were when you started this. You're becoming someone else, someone bitter, someone ... angry." I could feel the weight of her words. They hit harder than I expected, but I couldn't stop now, not when I was so close. "Maybe I don't care about who I was anymore," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Maybe I don't care about the person I was before Richard ruined everything." Claire didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, watching me, like she was waiting for me to wake up and realize what I was doing. But I didn't. I couldn't. I turned back to my desk, trying to shake off the feeling of her eyes on me. "I have work to do," I muttered, not wanting to talk about it anymore. Claire didn't press the issue. She just nodded and left, but I could still feel the weight of her words, hanging in the air like a bad smell. I thought I could push it away, ignore the gnawing feeling in my chest. But I couldn't. It was getting harder to breathe under the weight of everything I had done. I had started this with a sense of justice, of righting the wrongs that had been done to me. But now, it felt like something darker was creeping in, something I didn't recognize. Was it worth it? I didn't know anymore. Maybe I'd crossed a line I couldn't come back from. And even though I had destroyed Richard, even though I had gotten back at him in ways I never thought possible, all I felt now was emptiness. Was this really justice? Was this really what I wanted? To see someone else suffer just because they had hurt me? It didn't feel like justice. It felt like I was just as lost as he was, maybe worse. I stood up, pacing around the room, trying to shake off the guilt that was tightening around me. But I couldn't. It was there, like a constant pressure on my chest, the feeling that I was becoming someone I didn't want to be. Someone I wouldn't even recognize if I kept going down this path. I looked at the files on my desk, everything I had collected, everything I had planned, the moves I had made, the evidence I had against Richard. The final blow was ready to be delivered. And yet, all I could think about was how hollow it all felt. What was I really doing this for? What was the point of it all? I didn't have an answer. But I knew one thing for sure. I was already too far in to stop. I hadn't meant for it to go this far. At least I don't think I did. But here I am watching everything I've built, a web of lies and manipulation, slowly unraveling, and yet I can't stop. Richard deserves this. Lily deserves this. They're both going to pay for what they did to me. I just have to make sure it's done right. It started out simple. Small manipulations, planting seeds of doubt in the minds of his colleagues. Watch them crumble, one by one. His reputation faltered. His decisions were questioned. People started to question his judgment, his authority. It was all supposed to be strategic, calculated, a way to bring him down without him even knowing who was behind it. But somewhere along the way, things changed. The first time I manipulated a client contract to make Richard look incompetent, I felt a rush of power. It was subtle, just a few misplaced figures in the report, nothing anyone could pinpoint directly to me, but the results were clear. Richard's credibility took a hit. And I felt it deep in my gut satisfaction, sweet, bitter satisfaction. I didn't stop after that. Couldn't. It felt too good, too easy. The more I manipulated, the more I realized how much control I had over him, over everything. At first I told myself it was for justice, for redemption, that it was the only way to fix things, but now it feels more like a game, and the stakes have gotten higher. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win. I walked into the office one morning to find Richard standing by the window, his back to me. I hadn't noticed I'd come in yet, so I took a moment to study him. He looked tired, defeated, had no idea that the downfall he was experiencing was because of me, piece by piece. But that wouldn't last. I wasn't going to stop until I destroyed him completely. "Adam," Richard said, finally turning around. "You're in early today." "Had to get a jump on things," I said, my voice even. My heart pounded in my chest, but I couldn't let him see that, couldn't show him any weakness. Richard frowned, probably sensing something off. "Yeah, well, we've got a lot on our plate. I've been getting calls from the board about things." I just nodded. "Must be tough," I said, keeping my tone casual, as though I wasn't reveling in his misery. "But hey, you always managed to pull through." He didn't look convinced. But I wasn't concerned about that. I knew what I had to do next. Later that day, I made a few phone calls, ones that Richard wasn't aware of. Ones that ensured his already shaky position with the board would be further compromised. I slipped a few lies into the conversation, things about financial discrepancies, things that no one could really trace back to me, but would make Richard look reckless. I didn't even feel guilty anymore. I couldn't. It was too late. The next morning, things started to fall apart for him even faster than I had anticipated. I got a call from Claire, her voice strained and anxious. "Adam, you've got to see this," she said, barely able to contain the panic in her voice. "Richard's been called into another meeting. The board's asking him questions about his spending." It's getting ugly. I leaned back in my chair, a smile creeping onto my lips. "Perfect," I muttered. "Just the way I planned it." "I don't know how much longer this can go on," Claire said, her tone hesitant. "This could blow back on all of us, you know?" I didn't respond immediately. She didn't understand. She couldn't. She wasn't the one who had been betrayed. She wasn't the one whose life had been destroyed by Richard's lies. "I'm fine," I finally said. "And Richard, he's about to learn what happens when you mess with the wrong person." The satisfaction I felt didn't come from the pleasure of watching him fall. It came from the realization that I was in control. I had taken everything from him, piece by piece, and he didn't even know who was behind it. Later that day, Richard came to my office. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His hair was a mess, his eyes dark with exhaustion. He was struggling. "Adam, we need to talk," he said, his voice almost pleading. I raised an eyebrow, pretending not to notice his discomfort. "It's about what?" I'm losing control," he admitted, his voice cracking. "The board, they're pushing me. They know something's off. They're questioning every move I've made. I don't know how much longer I can hold on." I leaned back in my chair, keeping my expression neutral. "Well, that's the problem, isn't it? You never thought anyone would question you. You thought you were untouchable." Richard's face hardened, but I could see the fear in his eyes. He was starting to realize that he was too far gone. He was losing. "And now you're stuck," I continued, my voice colder than I intended. "The people who've been loyal to you, they're starting to jump ship. They know something's wrong. They can smell it. And soon everyone will know, your little empire. It's crumbling, Richard. God. And there's nothing you can do to stop it." His gaze dropped to the floor, and for a moment, I almost felt a twinge of pity. But then I remembered everything he had done to me. The way he'd used me, manipulated me. There was no pity left for him. "I guess you're right," Richard muttered, his voice barely audible. "I'm finished." "You were never going to make it, Richard," I said, standing up from my desk, my eyes fixed on his defeated figure. "You just didn't know it yet." As he walked out of my office, his head down in defeat, I felt a strange sense of emptiness. I had one. But something inside me was different. The person I was before all of this, was slipping away. The man who had once wanted justice was now a man consumed by the thrill of power. And I couldn't stop it. I could feel the tension in the air as I prepared for the final move. Richard had no idea what was coming, but I did. I had planned this for so long, watched every little thing fall into place. It was time to expose him, to show the world who he really was. The morning of the exposure, I stood in front of my laptop, staring at the email I had just drafted. It was simple, direct, to the point, but the impact would be monumental. Richard's affair with Lily, the lies, the manipulation, it would all be laid bare for everyone to see. I hadn't felt this cold in a long time. The fire inside me was burning with satisfaction, but beneath it was a gnawing sense of emptiness. Could this really be the end of it? Is this all there was? I hit send and sat back in my chair. The deed was done. The fallout was immediate. Within hours, the news spread like wildfire. People were talking, whispering, passing the information from one person to the next. Richard's affair with Lily was everywhere, plastered across news outlets, shared in emails, and even discussed in the office. I could already hear the murmurs in the hallways as I walked past colleagues who had once respected him. "Did you hear about Richard?" someone said behind me, their voice full of shock. "I can't believe it. His personal life, ruined." I felt nothing. It wasn't satisfaction anymore, it was just cold, empty victory. I had brought him down, but I wasn't sure what it had really accomplished. Later that afternoon, Richard stormed into my office. His face was red with anger, his eyes wild, but I didn't flinch. He was exactly what I expected, broken. And now he knew exactly who was responsible. "You think this is over?" he spat, his voice shaky but loud. "You think you can just ruin my life and walk away from this?" I stood up slowly, leaning against the edge of my desk, keeping my posture casual, as though nothing had changed. But everything had changed. "I've already walked away, Richard," I said, my voice steady. "This was never about you. It was about me taking back control," he sneered, stepping closer to my desk. "You're a coward. You always were, hiding behind secrets and lies to bring me down." I narrowed my eyes. "Is that what you think? Do you think I'm a coward?" "You know what, Richard? You're right. I hid behind things, sure, but you hid behind power and deceit. You used me, used everyone. I'm the one who's paying the price for it, right? But not anymore." Richard's hands clenched into fists, his knuckles white. "You'll regret this. You have no idea what you've done." I met his glare, unflinching. "I'm done regretting things. You should have thought of that before you decided to destroy me and everyone else around you." For a moment, we just stared at each other, the silence thick and suffocating. And then he turned on his heel and stormed out. I didn't feel any relief, no triumph, just nothing. The next few days were a blur. The board issued a statement. The media was all over Richard, and his fall from grace was public and brutal. People at the company started distancing themselves, pretending like they had never known him, never trusted him. Even Lily, who had been so close to him, was nowhere to be found. I watched it all unfold from my office, but I didn't feel the rush of satisfaction I had expected. It was just noise. It's just a string of events happening around me. I had one. I had taken everything from Richard, but it didn't feel like I had earned anything. I was sitting at my desk when Claire came in, her face tight with concern. "How are you holding up?" she asked, her voice soft. I looked up at her, not sure how to answer. "I don't know. I thought it would feel different. What did you expect?" she said, her voice full of empathy. "You've torn down a man's life, his career, his personal life. What did you expect, Adam?" I didn't know how to answer that. I had expected justice. But now, I wasn't sure what justice even meant anymore. I expected to feel something. "I don't know," I said, running a hand through my hair. "I thought I would feel ... better, but all I feel is empty." Claire took a step closer, her expression softening. "Maybe that's the price of revenge. Maybe it's not about the victory. It's about what it costs you to get there." Her words hit harder than I wanted them to. I had lost myself in all of this. I had focused so much on getting back at Richard that I had forgotten what it felt like to be me. The person I was before everything fell apart. The phone rang on my desk, cutting through the silence in my office. I glanced at it, unsure of whether I wanted to answer. But something inside me told me I should. "Adam Grant," I said, trying to sound normal, trying to push down everything I was feeling. "Mr. Grant," a voice on the other end said, cold and official, "this is the board. We've reviewed the situation, and as of today, Richard Allen has been removed from his position as CEO. We'll need to discuss the next steps." I nodded, even though they couldn't see me. Understood. As I hung up the phone, I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of everything settle into my chest. I had one. But now, it just felt like a bitter taste in my mouth. I didn't know what came next, but I knew I had changed. And I wasn't sure if that was a good thing anymore. I didn't expect it to feel like this. Richard was gone. His career, his reputation, everything he had built, shattered. The board had removed him. His face was all over the news, a disgrace, and I had been the one who'd made it happen. The victory should have felt sweeter, but now all I had was a void, a hollow emptiness that I couldn't escape, no matter how hard I tried. I sat in my apartment, staring at the dim glow of my laptop. The latest news article about Richard's downfall flashed on the screen, but I couldn't bring myself to read it. I'd seen enough to know that everything had come crashing down just as I planned. Yet I felt nothing, not pride, not satisfaction. Just emptiness. I was numb. The phone buzzed on the table next to me, and I picked it up, seeing Claire's name on the screen. She had been there through it all, and part of me wanted to pick up the phone just to hear a familiar voice. Maybe she could make sense of what was happening inside me. I hit accept. "Hey, Adam," she said softly. "Are you holding up?" I paused before answering, unsure of how to put it into words. "I don't know," I finally said, running a hand through my hair. "I did it. I brought him down. But it doesn't feel like I thought it would. I thought I'd feel ... different." "You've been carrying this for so long, Adam," Claire said, her voice gentle. "But now that it's over, it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. You've been through a lot. You've changed." I let out a deep breath. Yeah, I don't even recognize myself anymore. I used to be someone who cared about what was right. But now I don't even know who I am anymore. "You did what you thought was right," she replied, but her tone was cautious. "But now, you need to think about what happens next." I looked out the window, my thoughts racing. What happens next? What do I do now that I've gotten what I wanted? "I got justice, but at what cost?" "Justice?" she asked, her voice soft. "Is that what you think it was?" I didn't answer right away. I just stared at the city lights, watching the world move on while I stood still. "I don't know anymore," I said quietly. "It doesn't feel like justice. It feels like ... revenge. Like I've become something I never wanted to be. Something worse than Richard." "Adam, you need to stop blaming yourself," Claire said firmly. "This has nothing to do with you being a villain. You didn't make Richard do the things he did. You just made sure the truth came out." "That's just it," I said, my voice breaking. "I didn't want the truth to come out. I wanted to destroy him, wanted him to feel the same pain I did. And now that I've done it, I don't feel anything but regret." There was a long pause before Claire spoke again. "It's normal to feel that way, Adam. You've been so focused on bringing him down. But now that it's done, you're left with all of it. All the anger, all the hurt, and it's all on you. But you don't have to carry it alone." I bit my lip, trying to hold back the tears. "I'm not sure I want to carry it at all. I thought this would make things better, but I'm just ... tired, Claire. Tired of everything." "You're allowed to be tired," she said. "But that doesn't mean you have to keep carrying the weight. You can choose to let it go. You can choose to move on." I closed my eyes, her words echoing in my mind. Could I really move on? Could I ever go back to being the person I was before? Or had I crossed a line that couldn't be undone? Do you think it was worth it? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't answer immediately, and when she did, her words were careful. "I think that's something only you can decide. But just remember, what you did to Richard doesn't define you. No? You're more than the revenge you sought." I let out a bitter laugh. the sound hollow in the silence of the room. I don't even know who I am anymore. I know, she said softly, but you'll figure it out. We'll have to. The weight of her words hung in the air. She was right, of course. I had to figure it out. But what if I didn't like the person I had become? What if the anger and bitterness I had carried for so long had changed me in ways I couldn't reverse? I didn't have answers. But for the first time in weeks, I realized that maybe I didn't need to have them right away. Maybe it was okay to just feel the way I did. To let the guilt settle in, to let the regret wash over me. Maybe in time I would find a way to move past it, but right now, all I could do was sit with the consequences of my actions and hope that someday I could forgive myself for what I had done. I didn't know where to start. It felt like everything I had built, everything I had become, was nothing but a broken shell of the person I once was. Revenge had felt like the right path, like the only way to take control of my life. But it hadn't brought me peace. Instead, it had left me feeling emptier than I ever thought possible. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my phone, fingers hovering over the screen. I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on me, the guilt, the regret, the loss of who I had been. I had pushed everyone away. I had distanced myself from the people who once cared about me, and now it was time to reach out. I had to try to rebuild the pieces, even if I wasn't sure if it was possible. I scrolled through my contacts, stopping at Claire's name. She had been there for me, even when I didn't deserve it. But I hadn't reached out to her since everything happened. I'd closed myself off, thinking I could do this alone, but I couldn't. I tapped her number and hit call. There was a long pause, and then I heard her sigh. Yeah, I figured we'd have this conversation eventually. What's going on? I hesitated, unsure of how to start. I don't know where to begin. I've screwed everything up, Claire. I've pushed everyone away. I've been so consumed by this need for revenge that I didn't even see how much I've lost. How much I've hurt the people who actually cared about me. Adam, ... Double quotes. She said softly, "You've been through a lot. But you're not alone in this. You don't have to carry all of it by yourself." "I don't know how to fix it," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "I don't know if I can fix it." "You start by acknowledging it," she said, her voice steady. "You've already taken the first step by reaching out. That's something." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. "I need to make things right, Claire. With you, with everyone I've hurt. I'm not asking for forgiveness right away, but I need to try. I can't live like this anymore." "I'm glad to hear that, Adam," she said, and I could hear the sincerity in her voice. "You've been holding on to so much pain for so long. It's going to take time to heal, but you're on the right path." I hung up with a sense of relief, but it was only the beginning. I had to make more calls, apologize, make amends, and hopefully rebuild the relationships I had destroyed. I couldn't change what I had done, but I could start trying to be a better person. The next day, I reached out to Jordan. I had distanced myself from him too, thinking I could handle everything alone, but I had pushed him away, just like everyone else. "Hey," I said when he picked up, my voice more nervous than I intended. "I've been a terrible friend. I've been so focused on my own issues that I completely shut you out. I just wanted to apologize." There was a pause, and then Jordan's voice came through, warm but cautious. "Man, I get it. You were going through something. But it wasn't just you, Adam. I could have reached out too, so don't take all the blame for this." "I still feel like I could have done better," I said quietly. "I should have trusted you more. Should have trusted the people around me. But instead, I pushed everyone away." "You're still here, right?" he said, his tone light but supportive. "That's the important part. You can fix things, Adam, but it's going to take time, and it's going to take you being real with yourself." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "Thanks, man. I'm going to work on it." We talked for a little longer, but the conversation felt different. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just thinking about myself. I was thinking about the people I cared about and how to make things right. The hardest call came later that afternoon. Lily, I had no idea what to say to her. After everything that happened, how could I possibly ask for forgiveness? But I had to try. I dialed her number, my heart racing as the phone rang. The first time she answered, her voice sounded distant, like she wasn't sure if she wanted to talk to me. There was silence on the other end for a moment before she spoke. I don't know if I can forgive you, Adam, but I can tell you that I've been carrying a lot of guilt too. We both made mistakes. I know I was wrong, I said, the words coming out with more weight than I expected. I don't want to hurt anyone anymore. Not you, not anyone. I don't know what this means for us, she said, her voice quiet, but maybe we can both find a way to move forward. Maybe, I said, feeling the faintest glimmer of hope. Maybe we can. The calls weren't magic. They didn't fix everything in a moment. But as I hung up with Lily, and as I sat there reflecting on the conversations I'd had, I felt something shift inside me. I was on the road to redemption, and it was messy. But it was real. I could only hope that in time I'd find peace with everything I'd done. But for now, it was enough to know I was trying. The silence in my apartment was deafening. For the first time in a long while, I felt completely alone. I'd spent so much time focusing on Richard, on the revenge that consumed me, that I hadn't stopped to think about the damage it was doing to everything around me. I stared at the walls, the emptiness of the place closing in around me. This was my life now. No matter what I had achieved, no matter how much I had taken from him, there was a hole inside me that nothing seemed to fill. I had won. Richard had lost, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the price I had paid was far too high. I sat at my desk, my hands running through the paperwork scattered in front of me. I wasn't even sure what I was doing anymore. Everything felt like a blur, like I was moving through life on autopilot. What was I even doing this for? The phone rang, pulling me from my thoughts. It was Jordan. I hadn't talked to him in days, maybe longer. I wasn't sure how much I wanted to say to him, but I knew I had to take the call. "Hey," I answered, trying to sound normal. "What's up? You sound off," Jordan said. "Everything okay?" I hesitated before answering, my mind racing. "Yeah, I'm fine, just thinking a lot." "About Richard?" he asked. I could hear the concern in his voice. "About everything," I muttered, staring blankly at the pile of papers in front of me. "About what I've done, about what I've lost." There was silence on the other end, and then Jordan spoke softly. "I know it's been hard, man, but you've got to stop beating yourself up. You did what you had to do." "I don't know anymore," I said, my voice cracking. I thought I could handle it. I thought taking him down would make everything right. But now, now I just feel empty, like I've lost more than I ever gained. "Adam, you've been through hell," Jordan said. "But this isn't who you are. You've always been about doing what's right, and you've let this whole thing cloud that. You've got to find a way to get back to who you were before." "I don't even know who that person is anymore," I whispered. "Well, that's your problem, man," Jordan replied. "You're so focused on what you've lost, you're not looking at what you still have. You're still here. You can still change things. But you've got to stop chasing revenge. It's not the answer." His words hung in the air, heavy with truth. He was right. I had been so focused on revenge, so obsessed with taking control, that I didn't even realize what I was losing along the way. My friendships, my peace, my sense of who I was. "I don't even know where to start," I said, rubbing my face. "Everything feels so broken." "You start with forgiveness," Jordan said. "It's forgiving yourself first and foremost. And then you start reaching out to the people you've pushed away. You've lost a lot, but you haven't lost everyone. You've just got to be willing to fix it." I didn't respond right away. I was still processing what he'd said. Could I really fix it? Could I go back to the person I used to be? Was I even that person anymore? "I'll try," I said, my voice quiet, "but it's going to take time." "I know," Jordan said. "Just take the first step, man. And remember, I'm here for you." "We all are." "Thanks, man," I said, my voice thick with emotion. I needed to hear that. After the call, I sat in silence again, the weight of my actions crashing down on me. I had thought I was doing the right thing. Had thought that taking down Richard would make everything better. But now, I wasn't so sure. I had destroyed him, but in doing so, I had destroyed parts of myself, parts I wasn't sure I could get back. I spent the next few days reflecting on everything. The phone calls, the lies, the moments where I could have walked away but chose not to. I had been so consumed with making Richard pay, with getting back what I felt was taken from me, that I had forgotten about everything I had before this started. I had lost myself in the process. I started reaching out to the people I had pushed away. First, I called Claire. I hadn't spoken to her in weeks, but I knew I had to make amends. "Hey," I said when she picked up. "I know I've been distant. I've been wrapped up in my own shit, and I didn't even think about how it was affecting you." She was quiet for a moment. "It's been hard, Adam. You've been through a lot. But I'm here. I'm always here for you." "I don't deserve your forgiveness," I said, feeling the guilt weighing down on me. "But I'm trying to change. I'm trying to be better. You don't have to be perfect, Adam," Claire said softly. "You just have to try." "I will," I promised. "I don't want to lose you too." As the days passed, I started to feel a shift. The emptiness wasn't gone, but it was starting to fade, slowly. I realized that I couldn't change the past, but I could start rebuilding what I had broken. It wouldn't be easy, and it wouldn't happen overnight. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had a chance at redemption. I wasn't the person I was before, but maybe, just maybe, I could be someone better. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the blank wall in front of me, the weight of everything pressing down on my chest. Every mistake, every lie, every betrayal, was all there, floating around in my mind like a storm I couldn't escape. I had gotten everything I thought I wanted. Richard was gone. Lily had been exposed. I had taken control. But at what cost? The guilt was suffocating. I could still feel the anger, the hurt, and the resentment. I had built my entire existence around revenge. I had let it consume me, twist me into something I didn't recognize anymore. And now that it was over, I didn't know who I was without it. I could hear the sound of my phone vibrating on the table beside me, pulling me out of my spiraling thoughts. Claire's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated for a moment before picking it up. "Hey," I said, trying to sound normal, but even to myself, my voice sounded hollow. "Hey," she replied. "How's everything?" I let out a shaky breath. "I don't know, Claire. I thought I'd feel better, you know. I thought once Richard was gone, once everything was over, I'd finally feel at peace. But instead, I just feel empty." There was a pause on the other end, and I could almost hear her thinking, "Adam, you can't keep punishing yourself for what you've done. I know you think you've made all these mistakes, but you've done what you thought was right. It's okay to feel how you're feeling, but you have to let it go." "I don't know how," I admitted, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "I've lost so much, ... untrust in myself and the people around me. I'm not the person I was before." She let out a soft sigh. "You don't have to go back to who you were, Adam. You just have to move forward. It's not about forgiveness from others. It's about forgiving yourself." I closed my eyes, feeling the truth of her words hit me harder than I expected. I had been so focused on punishing myself, on making sure everyone else saw Richard for the monster I believed him to be, that I hadn't stopped to think about what I had become in the process. The anger that had fueled me was now turning in on itself, and it was eating me alive. "I don't think I can," I said quietly. "I don't know how to forgive myself for what I've done. I can't just erase all the things I've done to get here." "You don't have to erase anything," she said softly. "But you can choose to let it go. You can choose to move on. You're not defined by the worst parts of yourself, Adam. You're defined by what you choose to do next." Her words hung in the air, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I didn't have to carry this weight forever. Maybe I could let it go. But it wasn't going to be easy. The road to healing was going to take time, but it was a road I had to start walking down. "I'm scared," I admitted, feeling the vulnerability in my voice. "I'm scared that if I let go of all this, ... what's left? Who am I if I'm not the person who's been fighting for revenge?" Claire's voice was steady, comforting. "You're someone who's been through hell and is still standing. That's who you are, Adam." I sat there for a long time, holding the phone to my ear, but not really hearing anything. I just felt lost. It was like I was looking at a future I couldn't picture. And the past I had tried so hard to bury was pulling me back, keeping me stuck. past, I had tried someone else ers. And well, someone. I'm sided out a dotto. Someone subble it out a lot. Someone subble it out a lot. Someone subble it out. Someone subble out. I'm subble out. But double out. Was unsolved mauled. I was unre. I didn't have to carry the weight of the past anymore. I didn't have to be the person who had let revenge define me. I could choose to move forward, to let go of the bitterness, and to rebuild the parts of myself that had been shattered along the way. I'm going to try, I said, my voice stronger than before. I'm going to try to forgive myself. Claire didn't say anything for a moment, but I could hear the smile in her voice when she finally spoke. That's all anyone can ask for. I hung up the phone and sat in the silence of my apartment, the weight in my chest easing slightly. The anger wasn't gone, and I knew the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. But for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel completely consumed by it. I could move forward. I had to. I stood up, walked over to the window, and looked out at the city below. The skyline was beautiful, lit up by the setting sun, and for a moment, I felt a sense of peace. I wasn't where I wanted to be yet, but I knew I was on the right path. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision settle in. It wasn't going to be instant. I wouldn't wake up tomorrow and feel like everything was fixed. But I was going to start fresh. I was going to choose to forgive myself, even if it took time. And maybe, just maybe, I would find the peace I'd been searching for all along. It's strange, the way life can change overnight. A moment, a decision, and suddenly, everything feels different. I'm standing at my desk looking out at the same city I've been a part of for so long, but this time, I'm not just passing through it. I'm a part of it again, a part of something bigger than just me and my mistakes. The past few weeks have been ... intense. Healing isn't something that happens quickly, and it's not something that happens neatly either. There are still scars I can't hide, parts of myself that I'll have to rebuild over time, but I'm starting to understand that it's okay. It's okay to take time. It's okay to be human. I glance at the clock. It's almost time for the meeting, the one I've been dreading but also looking forward to. This is my first real step back into the office, back into everything I had walked away from, the people I've pushed away, the job I thought I'd lost. As I head toward the conference room, my heart starts to race. But it's different now. There's no panic, no fear of failure. I'm not walking into this room with the same chip on my shoulder that I had when I first started here. This time, I'm walking in knowing that I'm doing the best I can. And that's enough. I push open the door and walk in, my mind already focused on the task at hand. There's a low murmur as everyone turns to look at me. Some faces are familiar, others not so much. I take my seat at the table, my hands resting on the folder in front of me, trying to ignore the sudden sense of unease creeping up my spine. "Glad you could make it," Claire says, giving me a brief smile from across the table. Her presence still feels like a safety net, and I'm grateful for that. "Wouldn't miss it," I say, forcing a smile of my own. There's a lightness in my voice that I haven't heard in a long time. The meeting starts, and I find myself actually listening, actively participating. It's strange. I used to just go through the motions, feeling like I was stuck in a routine I couldn't escape. But now, with everything I've been through, it feels different. I'm not just here to punch in and punch out anymore. I'm here to contribute, to make a real impact. After the meeting, as everyone files out of the room, Claire stays behind. She looks at me with that same concerned expression she always has. "You did good today," she says, her voice soft. "Really good." I reply, my voice quieter than usual. It's been a long time since I felt like I was actually contributing, like I was making a difference. "Well, you are," she says. "You're already making a difference." I'm about to respond when another colleague, Jordan, approaches. He has a smile on his face, but it's a little more guarded than usual. "Hey, man," he says, slapping me on the back. "You're back in action, huh?" I chuckle lightly, the sound of it foreign to me. Jordan's smile fades just a bit. "Look, I know it's been a rough ride for you, but I'm glad you're still standing. We all are." "Thanks," I say, looking down at my hands. "I'm still figuring things out, but I'm getting there." Jordan gives me a nod of understanding. "You'll figure it out." "I know you will." As the day wears on, I find myself reflecting on everything that has happened. It feels like I'm finally turning a corner, finally letting go of the anger that used to fuel me. I'm starting to realize that it's not about getting revenge, about winning. It's about finding peace with myself. And as much as I hate to admit it, that's something I've been avoiding for a long time. The truth is, I've been running from my own feelings, my own guilt, because I didn't want to face them. But now, I'm ready to face whatever comes next. That night, I sit at my desk and pull up the email I've been meaning to write for days. To Claire, to Jordan, to the people who have been there for me even when I didn't deserve it. I type slowly at first, unsure of the words, but eventually they come. I know I've made mistakes. I write, my fingers shaking just a little as I type, and I know I can't change the past. But I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to be better. I'm grateful to have people like you in my life, even when I didn't show it. I hit send before I can second-guess myself. The next day, as I sit in my office, I feel a sense of clarity that I haven't felt in months. My phone buzzes with a new message. It's from Claire. I'm proud of you. You've come a long way. A smile spreads across my face as I read her words. It's not over yet, I know that. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm moving forward. I've made my peace with the past, and now I'm ready to face the future. I take a deep breath and glance out the window, watching the city go by. It's busy, it's noisy, but for the first time in a long time, it feels like I belong here, like I'm exactly where I need to be, and that's enough. I sit in my apartment, staring out the window at the city below. It feels like a lifetime ago that I was consumed by anger, by the need for revenge. I used to think that taking control of my life meant hurting others, making them feel the pain I had. But now I know better. I've learned that revenge doesn't fill the emptiness. It doesn't heal the wounds. It just buries them deeper, leaving you stuck in a cycle of bitterness and regret. I never imagined that my journey would bring me here back to where it all started. Alone, yes, but finally at peace. Not because of anything external, but because I've made peace with myself. I pick up my phone, hesitating for a moment before texting Claire. I've been thinking a lot. I'm starting to let go. Thanks for being there. I don't know why I felt the need to text her, but somehow it felt right. She had been there when I needed someone, even when I didn't deserve it. She told me I could change, that I could find peace. And for the first time, I'm starting to believe it. I hear the buzz of my phone a few moments later. It's her reply. You're welcome, Adam. I'm proud of you. It's not about what you've lost. It's about what you're gaining. A smile tugs at my lips as I read her words. I take a deep breath and sit back, letting the weight of her message settle in. It's true. I've gained more than I ever thought I could. I've gained control over my own life, over my own future, and that's enough. The phone rings again. This time it's Jordan. He's been there for me too, even when I pushed him away. Hey man, I say, answering before it goes to voicemail. What's up? How you doing? Jordan asks, his voice casual, but I can tell he's paying attention. You seem different. Better, I reply, looking down at my hands. It's been a long road, but I'm finally starting to get it. I'm finally starting to see the bigger picture. Jordan laughs, but it's not the usual carefree laugh. There's something warmer in it. Glad to hear it. I know I've said it before, but I'm proud of you, Adam. You went through hell and back, and you didn't just survive. You came out stronger. I let out a slow breath, feeling the weight of his words. Thanks, man. It means a lot. I didn't think I'd ever be able to move on from everything, but I think I'm finally getting there. Good, he says. You've got a lot of people rooting for you. Just don't forget to keep moving forward. Past is in the rear view, man. It's time to focus on what's ahead. I nod, even though he can't see me. He's right. The past, as painful as it was, doesn't define me anymore. What matters now is what I do with the future. And I'm not running from it anymore. Later that evening, I find myself sitting alone on the couch, my thoughts drifting back to the time before everything fell apart, to the person I used to be. I remember how naive I was, how innocent. I didn't know what betrayal felt like back then. I didn't know what it was like to lose yourself in anger, to let that anger take over every aspect of your life. But now I do. I didn't think I could ever forgive myself for what I became, for the things I did in the name of revenge. But as the days pass, the weight on my shoulders lightens. I realize I can't change what happened. I can't undo the pain I caused. but I can choose what happens next. The man I was before all of this, he's gone. That doesn't mean I can't shape who I am now. I'm not the same, but that doesn't mean I'm broken. I've learned. I've grown. And that's enough for me. A few days later, I find myself walking to a coffee shop I used to visit often. The familiar streets feel different now, somehow lighter, like I'm seeing them with new eyes. I've always loved this part of the city. It used to feel like home. But now, it feels like a place I'm ready to move forward from. As I walk inside, the barista greets me with a smile. It's the same guy who's worked here for as long as I can remember. I smile back, something I haven't done much of lately. "One black coffee, right?" he asks, already reaching for the cup. "Yeah," I say, my voice a little steadier than usual. "And keep the change." He nods and hands me my coffee, and as I take a sip, I feel a strange sense of calm wash over me. The past doesn't control me anymore. I'm finally starting to accept that it's okay to let go. As I sit at a table near the window, I pull out my phone and check my messages. There's a text from Lily. I haven't spoken to her in weeks, and I'm not sure what to expect when I open it. "I'm sorry, Adam. I hope you find peace." The message is simple, but it feels like a weight lifting off my chest. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt. I just feel at peace. I type a quick reply. "Thank you, Lily. I'm learning to let go." I send it and put my phone down, staring out the window at the world outside. There's so much ahead of me. And for the first time in a long time, I feel ready to face it. I take a deep breath and smile to myself. The road to healing is long, and I know it won't be easy. But I'm ready for whatever comes next. I'm ready to take control of my life, to move forward with purpose, and to find the peace I've been searching for.